And when I was designing this, the content of this session, I was really keen to find someone who has an intervention program, a kind of glimmer of hope of what can we do in terms of prevention. And all my research took me to the next speaker, Dr. Suzanne Smith. And Dr. Smith was awarded a prestigious Churchill Fellowship to spend time in North America looking at intervention programs, and has thought deeply about how to make a difference in this practice space, and has developed the ICON program. So please ask you to take the stand.
Thank you very much, and thank you for staying. Just staying. It's always that time. Yes, as Liam says, I went to North America and into America to look at programs that prevent abusive head trauma. And I came home in 2016 and tried to weave them into something that I thought would work in the UK, and that is ICON. I'm not going to go over all the things that Lindsay's just said, just to remind people what abusive head trauma actually is. And it's the most common severe injury in infants aged under 1. And it has high rates of mortality and lifelong adversity, obviously, with it. It causes those catastrophic injuries, as Lindsay's really carefully set out, so I'm not going to spend a long time on those. This is a little video, but I don't know how to make it play. So I'll skip through. It's literally only a sec.
The reason shaking a baby is so dangerous is their neck muscles are weak and unable to support their disproportionately large head. The brain bounces back and forth inside the skull, tearing blood vessels and causing brain damage.
So that's just a real simple graphic that powerfully shows what happens when a baby's shaken. And we talk about the cost, abusive head trauma. And obviously there is the emotional cost and the devastation for families and for the baby. But there's also longer term costs. And if you go on the ICON website, you'll see a really powerful video from one of our mums who is on our parents group, May, and it's about her son Ellis, who died at the age of 14 after he'd been shaken when he was 3 months old. And she goes through the massive cost as he grew older, what that involved, and I've just listed some of those things there. And you've also got the proceedings, the criminal proceedings, the family care proceedings, as well as a loss of societal productivity and occupational revenue. So who shakes a baby? I don't think there's probably anybody in this room who hasn't been irritated by a baby crying, is there? Even if you don't have children, if you are on a plane or a bus and there's a screaming baby, it gets right to you, doesn't it? It gets to you in a way that it's designed to get to you. It's meant to get your attention. We found in lots and lots of studies that about 70% of the perpetrators of abusive head trauma are male. They're either fathers, male surrogates, and that's been proved lots of times. As Lindsay's case studies really clearly show, it can occur in any socio-economic group. There are some risk factors, and I've put some of them down there, and Lindsay's described them, but it's important to remember it can happen in any family, anywhere. What happens is that caregivers will lose control and they'll shake the baby. And when a baby is shaken, they actually do stop crying. They get that concussion effect and they stop crying. And what we sometimes find is that babies who have been shaken more than once. But people who are trying to cope with the crying describe it in really, really powerful terms, like living on the edge, like perched on a cliff edge, ready to feel like they're going to throw themselves off. It has such a deep impact in them. There is also the link with adverse childhood experiences as well, and the study back in 2020 showed that with each additional ACE, study participants were more likely to accept potentially harmful parenting behaviour. So there is agreement across a lot of the literature that there is a link between crying, a baby crying, and a carer's inability to stop that crying and abusive head trauma. And there is a demonstrable link between what is described as the normal peak of crying, I'm going to describe to you now, and abusive head trauma. So what's the normal peak of crying then, the normal crying curve? Crying increases in the first month of life in all babies. So from about 2 weeks of age, they start to cry more. It doesn't matter how wonderful a parent you are. It doesn't matter if you have them strapped to you for the first 18 months of their life. Even primates get fussier around about 2 weeks of age. They start to cry more, and it gets more and more and more, and it reaches a peak around about 6 to 8 weeks old. It's roughly, it can start at 3 weeks, it can go on longer. But then you gradually see it start to decrease to about 5 months. And generally speaking, infant psychologists will say that at 5 months of age, babies are generally crying for a reason. It's potentially easier to spot what the reason is. But before that, parents sometimes just haven't got a clue and they can't stop it. So this is the curve of early infant crying, and this is just credited to Ronald Barr, who's done about 40 years research in crying, in infant crying. And you can see some babies who are a high crier can cry for 5 to 6 hours. It's a long time, but it kind of doesn't matter how long they cry for. What matters is the parent's ability to cope with it. These are just a couple of studies that I want to highlight, because does prevention work? It's a good question. But again, a lot of work has been done on this. And this is one study that shows that after implementing a similar program to ICON in Vancouver, there was a nearly 30% drop in cases coming to the emergency department with just crying. So this is ICON. The I stands for infant crying is normal and it'll stop, and it describes the normal crying curve. The C stands for comfort methods can sometimes soothe the baby and the crying will stop, and we urge people to think about, have you checked they're hungry, they're tired, they're in need of a nappy change, all the basics. And we offer some simple calming techniques. We also point out that none of these may work and the baby might just continue crying, in which case we say it's okay to walk away. If you have checked the baby is safe, and after a few minutes you go back and check on them. So just to make this clear, I am not advocating controlled crying or letting them cry it out. I am saying if you are getting really, really stressed out with this noise, you need to take a beat and do something to calm yourself down before you handle that baby. Just make sure that they're safe. And the N stands for never ever shake or hurt a baby, and it explains what can happen. It can cause brain damage, it can cause death. And we also say, if you're worried your baby's ill, don't think twice. Go and call, I'm going to say 111, but I know that isn't the same in Scotland. And it's NHS 24, yeah. And go see your GP. Go and get help from your health visitor or your midwife. So ICON's based on a number of touch points. And the first, these are the 5 touch points that are the must do. Lots of areas start antenatally and start giving that advice antenatally, which is brilliant if you've got that capacity to do so. But what we say is an absolute minimum that the ICON message should be given, usually by midwives, before somebody has been discharged after they've had the baby, or if they've had a home delivery before the team leave the house. And the reason we actually say that's a must-do is because that's when we are more likely to get men. And that's been proven in lots of studies, that that's when men are more likely to be there. And that's who needs to get the message, not just women. Then we say the community midwife will be visiting. They repeat the message. And it's really, really light touch. It's just, do you remember that leaflet that you got about crying? Do you remember they're going to start crying more soon, at about 2 weeks? Dig it out and have another read of it. And then again, the health visitor at 14 days just repeats that message again. Have you thought about how you might cope when they really start to cry? Have you got a crying plan set up? Who are you going to call? That sort of thing. We say around about 3 weeks as well, because the crying is likely to be starting to ramp up then. It's a good time for health professionals to send a text or any sort of message to say, remember about the peak of normal crying, the baby's going to start crying more, how are you going to cope? And then we ask GPs to reinforce this message at 6 to 8 weeks. All of this has to be wrapped up with a public health campaign, because those touch points on their own aren't going to get men. So we say to have a proactive multimedia health campaign which has a concerted effort to reach men. We're saying here that this is mainly health-based, but this is multi-agency. So we have police who deliver this message. We have social workers who deliver the message, nurseries, private nurseries, and we also have schools, and I'll show you a bit more about that in a bit. So this is the public health wraparound, as well as the generic leaflet that we do, that we give to people as soon as the baby has been discharged from hospital after they've been born. We have a friends and relatives one, because sometimes it can be the grandma, the auntie, the neighbour who's thinking, oh gosh, she's really struggling, or he's really struggling with that baby. I've heard them losing it next door. I can hear them shouting at each other when that baby is crying. And that leaflet gives them some advice and confidence about how you might support them. We've also got on the website loads and loads of stories from men, some videos who say what it feels like and how it's impacted on them having a baby that's crying. That is something that men might resonate with men when they watch it. We've got loads of little videos that are social media friendly, a couple of minutes long, that you can post on social media just to try and get that message to men. And we know that men do have actually watch some of these videos, not just click on them, they watch them. So it's worth doing. We also have a radio advert called Hush Little Baby that you can hear on the website as well. So other things you can do from a public health point of view is play those videos in, like, for example, a paediatric ED or GP surgery. And there was a study here done in February this year, published in the Archive Diseases of Childhood, which showed how parents' confidence went up significantly when seeing some of these public health message played in the waiting room, and ICON was one of them. Managing how a baby cries. It was pretty high to start with, which I'm really pleased about, but it went even higher afterwards. So what's the evaluation then of ICON? Well, since we launched in 2018 in Hampshire, and there's been lots of local audits done, and they all say similar things. They all say that parents particularly remember the O and the N, that it's okay to walk away and never ever shake or hurt a baby. Brilliant, that's exactly what we want. We've found that 98% of parents who've had a discussion about ICON went on to have that same discussion with a partner. Fantastic. And we know that parents are becoming aware of the ICON message, that it's been discussed by professionals and heard by parents. These are just some parents' responses. There's a young mum in foster care who was so determined to keep this baby. She wanted to do everything right. She was obviously pregnant. She stuck her crying plan on the wall and kept looking at it to remind herself how she was going to cope when this baby cried. There was a dad who we know was suffering with real bad stress and anxiety, and he was really, really worried about how he was going to cope with the baby. But he felt really relieved at being able to talk about his fears. It kind of gave him permission to do that. One that always makes my parents group cry is there's one woman who said, I use the mantra, babies cry. I can cope myself when babies cried. It's gone round my head and it's really helped. People found it comforting to know that you can walk away. People have looked at it together and they were worried. Some people were worried they couldn't do anything for the baby at that stage. And then they remembered, oh yeah, this is a stage all babies go through. There's been a big study being done in Bristol with Bristol Children's Hospital and Bristol University that's been funded by National Institute of Health Research. And they've published an interim report that looks at how ICON stands out from other programmes. It's integrated into healthcare settings. It's a simple, actionable message, and health professionals like it. The strengths are that it helps parents' mental health, really. It helps them feel less isolated. It encourages safe coping strategies. And they appreciate the message that infant crying is normal. It's not them. They ain't got a bad baby and they ain't a bad parent. And that's really important for them to hear. And they frequently cite the advice that taking a break when they're really overwhelmed was really valuable. The barriers, guess what? Workforce pressures. Ooh, there's a surprise. People not having enough time to talk about it. And the reason why we've done this multi-touch point is because parents, the first time you give it, might not be in the right frame of mind to hear it. So that's why we say, do it, and little reminders every now and then. GPs, unfortunately, were the less likely to deliver the ICON message, which is something we need to work on with named GPs. What ICON is not, is it's normal for babies to cry. Nothing else. That really winds parents up. That really winds them up. The whole message is important. Just giving somebody a leaflet, not ICON, won't make a jot of difference. Providing a translation without a conversation, asking women to tell men, doing the touch points without the public health wraparound, doing the public health wraparound without the touch points, won't work. It's not ICON. We also have ICON in schools now, because it was always part of my original vision was to have it delivered to people who weren't yet parents, or who were about to become parents, or who had siblings, or were babysitters, etc. So we have a whole curriculum for the PSHE bit of the curriculum to deliver this to 14 to 16-year-olds, and they really appreciate it. The evaluations of that have gone down really well. We've made all our materials pretty accessible. We have easy read versions of them. We've got something called Reach Deck on our website that allows you to do translations, and it even reads out the translation for you. That's a translation, that is Turkish, I'm told. If anybody's Turkish here, you might be able to tell me if that's right or not. You can do a screenshot after you've done that and give it to a parent if you don't have the money to actually have all the leaflets translated. Or you can press a little button and the computer will read it out to you. But even so, you still have to have an interpreter at some stage to have the conversation. We've rolled out ICON across all the armed forces at home and overseas with SAFA, and that's been really appreciated. And then we've got for each of the letters, the I, the C, and the O, and the N, which only give very brief information, we've got infographics, so it goes into more detail in each of those that professionals can use as posters, can give to parents, etc. These are the areas where in England and Scotland ICON is commissioned. So the blue is where ICON is live, the green is where it isn't live. It's, so you can see it's across all of Scotland now. Scotland have recently commissioned ICON to be rolled out as a national programme. It's also out of date this now because we've got North Wales on board as well. And this is really valuable because it stops that postcodey thing, you know, where somebody moves from one place to another and gets different advice. They're getting the same advice and the same message over and over again. So what's next for us? We're going to concentrate more on helping people calm down. It's all right to say, go and calm yourself down, but some people need a bit of help to remember what it is that helps them calm down. So we're doing something about find your calm, share your calm. We're talking about using your crying plan before your baby's born to actually think about what helps you calm you down rather than in the moment when you're crawling the walls. And we're looking at using a low stimulus environment, dimming the lights, getting rid of all the screens, turning all the screens off, and having a quiet and darker time. That's a picture of the crying plan, and these are the things that we're going to look at adapting, and it's Gilbert's 3 circles of emotional regulation. There's the drive, there's the threat, and there's the soothe. And when a baby's crying, you can't do what you want to do, so your drive goes out the window. Your threat system goes up massively as a result that stimulates that fight or flight. So what we are wanting people to do is to find that soothe and build it up and get that balance and emotionally self-regulate. So that's what we're planning on doing with some psychologists this year. And also next week is ICON week. Every week we have a week where we really pump out the ICON message. It should be pumped out all the time. But again, we have all the agencies, local authorities, police, ambulance staff, football teams, anybody who wants to engage with the public to really pump out the message happens during this week. And we're also looking at fundraising so we can get some further quantitative analysis. What we'd really like to show is that ICON is reducing the incidence of abusive head trauma in the UK. We can't do that yet. The only database that we had that would help us do that has been corrupted by a cyber attack. That's Bristol, who are looking into that at the moment. So finally, I just wanted to finish by giving the last word to our parents group. Our parents group are made up of parents who have lived experience of abusive head trauma, who have children or relatives who have suffered from abusive head trauma. And they've been involved in it from day one, even before it was called ICON. And they still say they still have to pinch themselves and check it's real sometimes. One parent said, "I'm so proud to be a part of it. It means so much to myself and my family." And they have an extended family now with the people they've met through ICON. And Ellis, his brother, said, "I miss Ellis every day and hope ICON can prevent babies being shaken and brothers being taken away, as Ellis was." These parents don't stop, and the relatives don't stop. Since we've become a charity in last year, they've been raising money, cycle rides, thank you, and marathon running as well, and they've done a just tremendous job. And those are some of our children and parents. Some of them are no longer with us, sadly, but they're the reason why we do what we do. Thanks very much.